Hi, everybody. Thomas Miller on the Fun Astrology video podcast. What happened to the chart? Well, we're going to come back here in just a minute. This is my backyard, and we're going to come back here to a place that I go often to meditate, and we're going to do a little meditation at the end of this little look at Venus Retrograde 2023. The other thing I wanted to quickly mention, we have an audio podcast, and on Saturdays on the audio podcast, Fun Astrology, we do a financial episode with Ray Merriman's material. So if you are interested in that kind of thing, come check us out. That's posted basically mid-morning on Saturdays, and it will also be on the video channels as well. All right, now let's jump in here and take a look at this chart, because what I'm looking at is not today on Friday. I'm looking ahead over the hill a little bit tomorrow to Venus retrograde. Now this happens at 9:32 p.m. So we're going to use this as the base chart because a lot of things are culminating right here at this particular time. What do we have that we're leading up to on this? Well, the first thing that happened last night, this was at 11:30 something last night, 11:52 last night actually, the sun opposed Pluto. So there's that thing. We talked about this yesterday, but the area of transformation, like if something has been pulling to transform in your life, there it is. Boom. Very powerful. Because 1 degree per day, see, we're at 29 degrees. This is so powerful. We're going to talk about that here in just a second when we get back over to Venus. But 29 degrees, I mean, this is an area of the chart of transformation, of changing. Because look, right after Venus goes retrograde, the sun moves into Leo. So this is all just, these are such powerful elements. These are such powerful energies in our life. Transformation, death and rebirth. Think the cocoon, the butterfly, right? Something has to morph, and for that, maybe something has to be set aside for just a little while, and then it changes into something better. That's the upside message of this. The downside message is this rules hell. It's like, okay, you could stop right there if you wanted to, but please don't. Come with me. Let's continue. So the other thing that's happening here is also a really early morning phenomenon that I hadn't been talking about on the audio podcast. I've been just watching this. It's kind of an interesting little thing. But notice, back to the sun again, and these are called the nodes of the moon. Now, I'm not going to explain what those are. If you're new to astrology, it's an elliptical, it's a point in space, basically. These are not physical. You can't go here. But it's a point of intersection. And if you go online and just search up nodes of the moon and then go to the images, it shows you, and a picture is definitely worth 1,000 words. But about every upper 80s, 87, 88, 89 days, either the nodes of the moon square like they are here, or they conjoin, so the sun will catch up with the nodes of the moon, and it's called actually a bending of the nodes. Kathy Allen wrote about this in Mountain Astrologer. There are a couple of articles that you can read about the bending, but basically what it does is it makes this planet the focal point of this square. Now we're talking about the square aspect here at this point. But also it's called a moon wobble. That's the funny term. The moon doesn't wobble. I'm not going down. Don't get me pegged into those. Oh, Thomas Miller said the moon wobbles. No, it's a term that was coined back in the 1930s by a really brilliant and well-trained astrologer who just observed that things get wonky in about the 2 to 3 weeks prior to this exact aspect. Well, the exact aspect hit today, this morning, early. So this is going to be fading out. But again, you could just look back in your life over the last couple of weeks. Has something kind of major moving you on your highest timeline, right? If you're moving toward your now north node in Aries, well, then there's a little subtlety in the chart that might be contributing to that. Now let's move to the big one. Let's talk about Venus, because Venus right now is getting ready to go retrograde. And again, if you're new to this, I'm so glad you're here. Look up the term retrograde, and that will help you explain. But it's an optical illusion on the charts and in the sky where basically a planet looks like it slows down, comes to a complete standstill, and then starts to actually track backwards in the sky. It's an optical illusion, but you can read up on it. So that's happening tonight at 9:32 p.m. right there, right at the end of Leo. Venus goes backwards. Now, it will track all the way until early September, back to 12 degrees, 12 minutes. So those of you who like numerology, 1212. So there's a good thing, right? That's a very divine number that Venus is going to track back in the sign of Leo back in that direction. What does Venus represent? Because this is a really big deal right now in the energy in the sky. If you believe in as above, so below, Venus has been in all of these things that we've been pointing out this week. And look at all this energy. We mentioned this yesterday. It's like everything is connected to everything else, and it's all like this. There's a lot of tension in this chart, a lot of tension. Venus is a primary player in what's going on in the world right now and in our lives. So what does Venus represent? Basically, love and money, if we boil it down. Now, let's pick those two apart. Because if we get under the skin of each of those manifestations, what are we really talking about? We're talking about things that we value, right? We value our relationships. We value our loving, tender relationships, whether it's our preferred partner or whether it's our family. We value those relationships, our kids, right? Dear to our heart. The other thing about money, the money side of it, is our possessions. Again, I mean, even if your house is filled with clutter to the point that you couldn't put a piece of paper in between something, you went out and chose every one of those items, or somebody gave them to you, and they have value to you because you've made them part of your environment. So we're talking about the things that we value when we're talking about Venus, things that are important to us. Well, all of that is coming under this retrograde. And the retrograde season in astrology is basically interpreted as a time that we go back and we review. Think of re-words, R-E, review, revisit, reanalyze, reassess, replan. It's a time when we slow down, we stop, and we take a look. Now remember, we talked about the sun being right here at 29 degrees. When are planets most powerful in astrology? It's exactly right now. When they slow down, so here's the optical illusion. Venus is slowing down, 9:32 this evening, boom, it stops. That's when it's at its most powerful strength. And then it appears to start going backwards. Venus does this every year and a half for about 6 weeks. So here we are, right on time. And it will go back and it will get a little faster, so it loses some of that strength, but then it goes back to 12 degrees, 12 minutes, and it slows down again, gets really strong again, and then it starts to go forward, and it finally gains forward motion, and it moves on past where it is and goes on for another year and a half until we rinse and repeat. That's the cycle. Well, and the other time that planets are the most strong is when they change signs. So look, the sun is super strong. That's you. That's the sun. That's your life force. That's who you are in the world. That's your essence. That's your ego. That's all about you. And that's all about what you love and what you value and what you possess and what's dear to you. Do you see what's happening? Very strong. Opposition to Pluto, changing, square to the nodes, on your karmic path. This is your destiny. Stand up for yourself. Remember, we talked about this. Stand up for yourself. Don't give up too much to others. This is about you reevaluating what's most important to you and choosing for yourself and for myself what we are going to take out of this retrograde period that is important to us. Shedding the old, the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. You got 6 weeks. But if that wasn't enough, right after Venus turns retrograde, as we mentioned, the sun leaves Cancer and moves into Leo, the stage where Venus is retrograde. So this is going to cross over. See, everything is going to cross over as the sun starts to move toward Venus. Venus is moving toward the sun. This is all about you and what you're going to do with the things that you value. So that's why I thought it would be significant for us to just do a little meditation here as we think about these things that are most important to us and what we're going to do with them. So you might be listening to this in a busy environment, you might be driving, you might be with other people, but if you can, just quiet and silence for just a second. There's another version of this that might be able to absorb on the audio version of the podcast if you'd like to check that out. We're going to be short here, but just to set some intentions. So if you can, just quiet, calm, put all the noise aside as best you can. I know that text you just got that you have to respond to. It'll be there when you get finished. We won't be long. It's longer on the audio. And just center. Feel your chakra line, right from root to top. This is where your energy is in your body. Find where the energy is strongest right now. Just do a scan from either bottom to top or top to bottom. Just scan where it is. For me, it's right in the heart chakra area, the middle of the chest, right now, at this moment. Feel that place of energy. And realize that what the sky is saying, as above, so below. If you can buy into that, what's reflecting is that everything that you and I value is worth looking at. So the first thing I would say is, are you on your highest timeline? That's one point to check in. If so, how can you level up? We do level up on Sunday nights on our YouTube channel and Facebook group. Level up. Take it up a notch. If you're not on your highest timeline, what's keeping you from there? Choice? Relationship? Addiction to money? Chasing stuff that maybe you could chase some higher ground? That's for you to evaluate during this next 6 weeks. What do you value? What's most important? What do you value that you've neglected? What could use a little love that was important to you? You chose it, you possess it, but maybe it just hasn't gotten the full attention that it needs. Can you give that some extra love these next 6 weeks? Can you rekindle that? And it might be just an object. You might, just whatever it is. But it's important to you, and it needs your love. And then maybe take a look at how you love. We talk about unconditional love. That's a tough one, isn't it? We often love with strings attached, and usually those strings come back to that little planet down at the bottom of the chart, or that luminary at the bottom of the chart that represents our ego, because it's all about us. We want stuff for our own good. As long as that sun is satisfied, then it's okay. Maybe you could love for just the act of loving. Maybe you could release a little piece of that sun, like a solar flare. Send it out. You don't get it back. It's gone. Release it. Send it out in love. Don't expect anything in return. Pull it together. Maybe you give some money to somebody who you love and don't expect it to be returned. Do you flow like that? Are you a channel to flow through, or are you a lake, like a dam, and the dam gates are closed? Flow, circulate. That's how energy moves. Like I said, we'll do a longer version of this, but just for the next 6 weeks, set your intentions right now, just for a moment. What are you going to get out of this? And I wish you love, and I wish you the very best as you walk through this path. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you back on Monday. Have a great weekend.